If you've got an orchid, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those kind of strange, silvery, green tentacles that are just reaching out of the pot, crawling all over your shelf. Well, those are called aerial roots. And today, we are going to figure out what they are, what you should do with them, and maybe more importantly, what you should definitely not do with them.
Okay, let's just get right to the biggest question, the one temptation every single orchid owner feels. These roots look a little wild, they look messy. Can I just, snip them off? It seems like such a simple fix, but trust me, the answer is absolutely critical for the health of your plant. Stick around and you'll know exactly what to do.
First things first, we need to completely reframe how we think about these roots. They aren't a problem, not at all. They're actually a superpower. You see, in the wild, most orchids are something called epiphytes, which is just a fancy way of saying they don't grow in dirt. They grow on other things, like clinging to the branches of trees in a rainforest. And these aerial roots, they're the brilliant tool that makes that whole lifestyle possible. So what are they actually doing out there? Well, they're juggling three incredibly important jobs. First up is anchorage. They're like little grappling hooks, gripping onto tree bark to hold the plant steady, way up high. Second, absorption. They act like sponges, soaking up moisture and nutrients right from the humid air and the rain. And third, and this is the really amazing part, photosynthesis. Yep, you heard that right. These roots can actually make energy from sunlight just like the leaves do. How cool is that? Now, the secret weapon that lets them do all this is a special coating called the velamen. You can see it on your own plant. It's that silvery, kind of papery-looking outer layer. And it might look simple, but this thing is a high-tech marvel. It's this sheath of dead cells that can absorb water in a flash, but it also acts like a shield to stop that precious water from escaping too quickly. Understanding all that biology is the key, really, because once you know what the roots are for, you can start to learn how to read them. They are, without a doubt, the single best indicator of your orchid's overall health. So let's put on our detective hats and learn what they're telling us. Okay, if you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. Forget about the color for a second. The number one, most reliable sign of a healthy root is its texture. Go on, gently squeeze one of yours. A healthy root, doesn't matter if it's in the pot or in the air, will always feel firm and plump, nice and solid. This slide lays it out perfectly. Over on the left, you've got your healthy roots. You'll notice the color is just a hydration gauge. Silvery white means it's thirsty, and bright green means it just had a good drink. But the key is that they're firm. Now, look over to the right. That's trouble. If a root feels mushy, like a soggy noodle, or if it's dry and brittle like a little twig, it's dead. It's no longer helping your plant. And this little diagnostic guide really puts it all together. If a root is firm, awesome. Just keep doing what you're doing. But notice there are two kinds of dead roots. If it's soft, mushy, and brown or black, that's rot. That's a high priority problem because rot can actually spread. If it's brittle and shriveled, it's just dried out. Both types should be removed, but those mushy, rotten ones, you need to deal with those right away. Okay, so now you can confidently tell a healthy root from an unhealthy one. We can finally talk about pruning. And when we do, there is one non-negotiable golden rule that you absolutely have to follow. No exceptions. Here it is. Healthy aerial roots must not be cut. I'm going to say it again. You cannot cut healthy roots, ever. I know it's tempting to tidy them up, but those sprawling, silvery roots are very often the healthiest part of your entire orchid. They're living their best life out there in the air, just like nature intended. Cutting them is a huge, huge mistake. So why is it so bad? Well, for starters, you're literally chopping off your plant's ability to drink and eat. But even worse, a cut on a healthy root is just a big open wound. You're basically rolling out the welcome mat for bacteria and fungi to march right in and cause a deadly infection. Plus, it throws off your whole watering game, making it super easy to overwater and rot the roots that are left behind in the pot. So does this mean you never get to prune? Not quite. There is one time it's okay, and that's for the careful removal of dead tissue. But you have to think of it less like a haircut and more like, well, surgery. You are only removing what is no longer alive. And here's exactly how you perform that surgery safely. Step 1. Be 100% sure the root is actually dead. Remember, mushy or brittle. Step 2, always use a sterile tool. Just wiping your scissors with some rubbing alcohol is perfect. Step 3, make one clean cut. And finally, here's the pro tip. Dab a tiny bit of ground cinnamon right onto that fresh cut. Cinnamon? Yeah, from your spice rack.
It's a fantastic natural desiccant, which means it helps dry out the wound, and it's also antifungal. It basically creates a perfect little protective seal over the cut, stopping any infections from getting in. Just make sure you only put it on the cut itself, not all over the healthy parts of the plant.
Okay, so surgery is great for fixing problems that have already happened. But you know what's even better? Prevention. Instead of just reacting to bad roots, let's create an environment where your orchid can just thrive from the get-go. And that really comes down to two things: humidity and proper repotting technique.
Remember, these are rainforest plants, so they absolutely crave humidity. The sweet spot for them is somewhere between 40 and 70% relative humidity. In that kind of environment, they lose a lot less water from their leaves and roots, which is just crucial for a plant that isn't designed to sit in constantly wet soil.
So how do you get that humidity? Let's look at what actually works. You hear a lot about misting or using those pebble trays, but as you can see from this chart, they have a pretty tiny effect. If you're really serious about giving your orchid what it wants, a good humidifier is by far the most effective solution. Grouping your plants together also helps a bit as they create their own little humid microclimate. All right, now for a game-changing repotting tip. When orchid roots are dry, they are incredibly brittle and they can snap so easily. To avoid that disaster, always soak the entire plant, pot and everything, in water for about 10 to 30 minutes before you even try to pull it out. This makes the roots super flexible and way easier to work with.
And what about all those aerial roots when it's time to repot? Here's the deal. Do not try to force them down into the potting mix. A root that has grown up in the open air is just not adapted to being buried in constant moisture. Shoving it underground is pretty much a guaranteed recipe for rot. Just let them hang out on top of the new bark. They'll be perfectly fine, I promise.
So when you get right down to it, those wild wandering roots aren't a problem we need to solve or a mess that needs to be tidied up. They're really the voice of your orchid. They're telling you everything you need to know about its health, its happiness, and its history. So the real question is, now that you know the language, are you ready to listen?